All right, good morning. Here we are, late April, Monday, heading back to Canada in 2 more days. And right now I'm walking into town to go see a doctor because I have an ear infection. My ear's all plugged. I've always had this problem, especially with my right ear. Many a time I've gotten to see a doctor at the clinic or whatever, and they hose it down, or I don't know why that is. But anyways, I thought I'd talk about doctors and all things medical. Costa Rica. So a lot of people don't realize this, but Costa Rica's got a lot of medical tourism. That includes dental, that includes, I believe, hip joint replacement, stuff like that, and also a lot of cosmetic surgery. So they have pretty high standards, as I understand. I know people back home in Canada, when I talk to people, especially when I talk to medical professionals, they kind of like look at me sideways and go, I don't know, it's a third world country. Well, maybe not, but I think their standards are pretty high. I've never heard of anybody having a negative experience because of their third world country. Just wait for this truck to go by. A lot of construction going on still. So in my limited understanding and experience, I'll share with you what I know and understand about the medical industry. They call it medical tourism. So all over Costa Rica, there's clinics everywhere for all kinds of stuff. And you can come down here, let's say you needed to get 4 implants, and back home it would cost you $12,000. You could probably get the same thing done here at the same level for $3,000 or $4,000. And while you're down here, if you wanted to, you could tie it in with a resort. I know there are some places that tie it in with resorts where you just kind of chill out, stay at the resort, and heal. There's a lot of that going on. So anyways, back to the standards. As I understand it, the standards are pretty good. Okay? You got things in Costa Rica that scare people because it's Central America, and it appears it's not the same as back home where everything is linear, and we have if you want to build a set of steps going up to your deck, you got to get a permit. And hell, you got to get a permit to put a sign on your door for your business. So down here, a lot of that stuff, they kind of like poo-poo that aside, but their standards for all things medical seem to be pretty good. I know a lot of people who have experienced a lot of medical treatments, and they've never had an issue. If it was an issue, I'd hear about it. We'd all hear about it. It would be something that we'd be talking about. So, and it never gets talked about other than the experiences being very positive. I'm going to cross the road here. So you know what I mean? So yeah, it's worth looking into, and a lot of people don't understand that. They have that idea that it's got to be sketchy as hell. So their educational system is pretty solid down here. All right, I'll just tell you one story, and then I'll shut up with that. Well, let me a couple of more comments here. I'm going down to a clinic because my ear's plugged. Last December, my daughter was here, and she had her ear plugged. And also, my wife had an issue. I can't remember what it was. She had to go see a doctor. So there's a clinic, that's where I'm going right now. There's a clinic, a small office doctor. And I find it's kind of cool. You can just, see, if I were living down here full time, I would feel actually more at ease compared to back home. If I want to see a doctor back home, I got a call. And they're like, okay, you could see her in 7 weeks. That's the average. All right, well, but I got to see her now. I have a bit of a thing going on. She's like, well, then you got to go to the clinic or to Emerge. Now, last time I went to Emerge, we waited like 12 hours. Serious, 12 hours. So I always thought to myself, if I lived here full time, we already have phone numbers for doctors. The one I'm going to now, my wife's gone to, my daughter's gone to last December, and it was very, very, very accessible and very, very, very affordable. So for me to get the same thing back home, it would be 10, 20 times more complicated. Not long waits notwithstanding. So I do want to say one final story. I find this one to be the most amazing. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola.
There's the flower guys. They're selling plants, see? Oh, it looks like a cedar tree. We bought a bunch of plants from them years ago for the front of our condo. So, okay, one final story, and that's Laurier. I'm sure Laurier won't mind me telling this story. And it's fascinating. It's really indicative of how really effective and cool things are. So Laurier's 79 years old now. A couple of years ago, he was planning to come down here. He always comes down around November, December. And went to his annual, see his family doctor, and the doctor said, something's going on with your blood. We need to get you retested just to make sure we know what's going on. And he said, well, yeah, you got to understand Laurier. He's a real free spirit. And he said, well, I'm going to Costa Rica, so I'm going to go do it down there. A lot of people would have been like, oh no, I'm going to cancel my trip and stick with, you know, figuring this out and stick with the system in Canada. But Laurier, you know, when Laurier comes down here, he doesn't even buy health insurance for both him and his wife. I kind of like that idea. It's really expensive, especially when you're older and you start having health problems. So anyways, he comes down here, goes to the get the blood work done, and again, there's a lot of options available down here for doing that kind of thing. Sends the results back, and they're like, yeah, we got to look into this some more. You got to go see a specialist. So he says, okay, I'll find one here in Costa Rica. He finds one in Costa Rica, in San Jose. So he has an issue, needs to take medication, and he needs a specialist. Can you imagine that? I mean, he told me later, he says, if I'd have gone back home and if I would have gotten in queue to see the specialist in Canada, it would have taken 6 months minimum. So he finds the specialist in San Jose, Costa Rica, calls. She answers the phone. He talks with her and sets up an appointment within a week or so. Eventually takes a bus, goes to San Jose, gets the consultation, the more blood work done, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, $150 US. Gets everything set up, gets exactly the treatment he needed, exactly what he would have had in Canada, but it would have taken a lot longer in Canada. Had follow-up meetings with this lady who was a specialist. You know, we're talking like 12 years of medical training here. And he told me, he says, yeah, he was talking to her. He had a couple follow-ups like months afterwards, and he's like, don't I owe you some more money? She's like, no, don't worry about it. They're just like that here, you know? So, see, there's a doctor's office right there. So anyways, that's my story on that one, and there's a lot of access to a lot of top-notch medical, dental, and if you're into cosmetic surgery, and at a fraction of the price. All right, I'm out of here. We'll talk later.